Good evening, everybody. It is August 13th, and it is another extremely hot and sunny, clear summer day here on the southeastern North Carolina coast. And I want to take this opportunity to review two figs. One fig is very well known, another fig is not as well known, but it's in the same family. This right here is my Chicago Hardy tree. Chicago Hardy, I bought this was a little cutting in a bag that I bought for $9 or $10 from Home Depot earlier in the season. And you can see it's a very small tree. Chicago Hardy is it's a popular rootstock because of how dwarfing it is. And this had a bunch of figs on it, but I have slowly been picking them all off. As you can see, this branch is completely bare, and I've been eating them, and the reason why you haven't seen me taste test one is because I just haven't gotten a good one. I've been incredibly unimpressed with the Chicago Hardy, and today I picked 3 of them off, so I figured if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it, so I'm going to have to taste test these figs. And Chicago Hardy is part of a class of figs called Mount Etna types. I guess they call that because maybe it originated from the Mount Etna region of Italy, but I digress. There are a number of figs very similar to Chicago Hardy, and one thing you can notice about Chicago Hardy is how small it is. Let's see if I can give you a better example. This fig right here, this is a Chicago Hardy, and it's not going to swell too much larger than that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick off one of these leaves so I can show you. Okay, here's what it looks like. I'm going to take you over to 2 other Mount Etna types that I have. So over here, this monster right here is called a Marseille Black VS. Often people call it MBVS, and you'll never know it. But I planted, or I received that Chicago Hardy, I want to say back in February, when Home Depot first started getting its little bagged fruit trees in. And so that's been potted up for months and months. But this Marseille Black, I didn't up pot until 5/2. So this is months behind the Chicago Hardy. And you can see how much more incredibly vigorous it is. Yet it doesn't have a lot of it hasn't had any ripe fruit to date yet. But you can see how, oh my god, it's just loaded with fruit. So I have not been impressed with the flavor at all of the Chicago Hardy. So if this is in the same family and the fruit is just as good, if not better, I'm not really going to have any use for that Chicago Hardy. So I wanted to show you what this tree is and show you how similar the leaf types are. You can see, it looks even more like this one. I don't think they're the same tree, but they are clearly in the same family. Then over here, you have another Mount Etna type, as evidenced by the leaf. Looks just like this. Let me snap one of these guys off and show you. Break one of these off at the bottom. So you can see how similar this leaf type is. Ah, look at that. That's almost a carbon copy right there. So this is another Mount Etna type. Now this is commonly called Azores Dark. The real name is Sao Miguel Roxo, but people call it Azores Dark. And I've had a heck of a time with this tree because it got ants. Ants built a nest inside it, and I came out one morning and they chewed through my organza bags, and they ate through 2 of them, and they started eating through a 3rd, but I was able to save the 3rd. So I'm going to taste test this Sao Miguel Roxo, aka Azores Dark, to the Chicago Hardy. And this is actually a graft. This down here is grafted to the Chicago Hardy rootstock. You can see how it kind of buds out here, and that's why it's dwarfing. That's why it's so small compared to the massive Italian 258 that it's next to. So Chicago Hardy, I guess it makes a pretty good rootstock if you want smaller trees. If you want large vigorous trees, skip it. But I digress. I just want to compare these two together because given that they're both in the same family and very similar, if one is better than the other, well, what's the point in having all these different types in the same family? Alright, now I get to show you how small these Chicago Hardies really are. 10 grams. And that's my 9 grams. And that's my largest one out of the 3. 6 grams. And 9 grams. So you add them all together and you get 26 grams. I think that, all 3 together, that's smaller than my smallest fig so far this season. Now here is the Azores Dark, aka San Miguel Roxo. So you can see that is 15 grams. It's larger than any of the Chicago Hardies, and it may be a little bit larger if it weren't for the fact that it was eaten by some ants. But I rescued as much as I possibly could. Alright, now I'll show you what these look like on the inside. They're very hard to cut and they're very leathery because they're so small. You just get an incredible amount of skin. So you can tell they're clearly ripe. So if these don't taste good, they have no excuse because it's been plenty hot for these to ripen. I've heard Chicago Hardy needs a lot of heat to ripen, but it's been 95 degrees every day here. We've been in a heat wave. It's been brutally hot. So if it cannot ripen in these conditions, they will never ripen. But these are all well jellified. They look very nice. And for the Azores Dark Sao Miguel Roxo, it looks just like the Chicago Hardy. You can clearly tell that these are all in the same family. Alright, now I get to try these. I'm going to start with the absolute ripest, possibly overripe Chicago Hardy. And it's seedy. There is some type of mild berry gelatinous flavor to it, but it's so small that there's just not really enough there to really get you excited. I'll try one of the smaller, less ripe ones. And there's something there, but it's almost like eating one blueberry, where you really need a handful to really get something on your palate. I'll try one more. And I am doing everything I can to swirl it around on my tongue so I can taste it. And there's just not a lot there. It tastes good, don't get me wrong, but it's not nearly as good as any of the other figs that I've had. Now I will try one of these Sao Miguel Roxo, aka Azores Dark figs, and see if, since it's larger, if it has a little bit more bite to it. And it's definitely better. It's sweeter, but it's just not blowing me away. And I've heard such good things about the Azores Dark, about how it's supposed to be an early and intense fig, and I'm just not getting it. Maybe my trees are just a little bit young, but I'm very unimpressed with both of these. Given the two, the Azores Dark is better because it has more meat to it. So I definitely wouldn't keep both of these trees. And at the rate it's currently going, unless there's a big change, I think that my Chicago Hardy is probably going to wind up as rootstock for another variety next year. Maybe for something like a panache or something, because I know a tree like a panache, they can grow to be something like 10 to 20 feet in one season, and they can get gigantic. So I wouldn't want something like that taking up a lot of room, so grafting it onto some kind of dwarfing rootstock could really be a benefit. So there you have it. That's my review of the two varieties. I'm a little disappointed in these two, but I'll let you know if they get better as the season progresses. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel for future updates and more videos like these. I appreciate your viewership, and I hope to see you all again next time.